I'm going to call the meeting to order. Good afternoon, and welcome everyone who's here. We'll go ahead and get started with a quick reminder that today's meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. And for trustees, if you can go ahead and turn your mic on prior to making any comments, that would be most appreciated. We'll start with a roll call.
Carla Guglio.
Here.
Joanne Harris. Josie Martinez.
Here. Here.
Marianne Valdez Hernandez.
Here.
Amanda Cardenas. Michelle Dalbas Robledo.
Here.
Marcy Inks is absent. Beth Graham.
Here.
Judy Cruz is absent. And Jaspreet Kaur.
Here.
Here we have a quorum.
Thank you. Let us start with a silent meditation. Take a few moments just to bring our focus to the work we have ahead of us today. Okay, next we have the approval of minutes. And the minutes were sent ahead of time in your packet, but they were also included at the items that are at your place. And I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you, Andrea. So we have a first from Josie and a second from Andrea. Any questions or comments? Okay, and all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move into public comments, and as per the usual protocol, we have public comments both in person as well as submitted online. So we'll give priority to those who have come here in person. If there is anyone here who came to the meeting with the intention of sharing public comments but did not sign on a piece of paper that looks like this, please see Sydney at the back of the room and she can help you, she can assist you in getting signed up. So I'm going to call on folks in the order that they signed up, and the first one is Humberto Quintanilla. Thank you. And I guess your title is what was behind, so, yep.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Humberto L. Quintanilla. I'm the COSA VAC, Veterans Advisory Committee, District 9 representative. Does the menstrual equity program still exist for the library? I'll take that as a yes. I came in and looked in the boys' bathroom, and the dispenser was removed. Have the dispensers been removed from the boys' bathroom in all locations? And the wall spackled from the damage. Okay, well, I'll launch in then. It appears, from my research, that the MEP was brought into existence in the darkness of night. I could not find any minutes. I could not find any reports. I could not find any records of the deliberations of this group for that program. All I could find was a press release and a 311 notice that the program existed. I remind you that all of us are under the ethical requirements for the conduct of business by the City of San Antonio. If you, as the committee of trustees, approve that program in any other forum besides public, besides timing or giving public time for comment, if it was done behind the scenes, if it was done by emails with the Texas Diaper Center diaper bank, then that was a walking quorum, and you have violated the rules. So I'm hoping that you came to the realization on your own that you had strayed off the reservation with that program and not gotten any public input prior to you introducing that equipment and that expense, and I might add, mentioning on 311 that you were going to absorb those costs into your budget. And I dare say you must have excess budget from what I can see in the background. If you have that much money to fund a program that was created out of thin air, a problem that was manufactured for some sort of, I don't know, public opinion, then you have too much money. And your budget needs to be reconsidered. Perhaps the money that you had donated, devoted to the MEP could better be served by taking that money and putting it towards the Narcan dispenser program for the city of San Antonio. So if somebody at the end of my 13 seconds left can tell me what day you approved that program, please let me know now. 3, 2, 1. The people responsible have not been held responsible.
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. Next is Hade Pacheco.
Hello, I'm Heather Pacheco. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a community builder with Act for SA. I know many of you know me. First off, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, especially in these times, thank you for the work that you do to keep this library system running. Especially in these times, this space is essential, and it's essential that we work together as community board and staff to keep the sanctity of the library intact. I'm here again, as most of you know, to speak out against the pilot program with the SAPD, to the tune of $70,000 for 6 months for a few hours a week. The cost is too much, and the risk to our community members being pulled into the criminal legal system when they need resources and knowledge why they're here is just too much. This year, we're in an entirely new climate than last year. I think a lot of you know that. I don't know how many times in the past few weeks I've heard the term unprecedented times. We are in unprecedented times. We're seeing the censorship and witch hunts that harken back to the McCarthy-era policies. We're seeing an alarming move towards censorship, restriction of knowledge, and the passing of cruel and unjust policies and laws. We're seeing the criminalization of our most vulnerable communities, including one that I am part of, as a queer Latina woman. Our houseless and our immigrant communities as well are facing these criminalizations. Why am I talking about this national issue in a library board meeting? I ask you to think on who enforces these laws that are coming out. That's the police. The police has always stood on the other side of the community. Think about the suffrage movement. Think about the labor movement. Think about the civil rights movement. As a queer Latina whose community is under attack by state and federal legislatures, I do not feel safe with cops in the community spaces. These are supposed to be spaces to provide access to resource and knowledge, and I think many of you know that in the next coming years, there will only be a greater need for those resources. I know many of my community members feel the same. I ask you to think about what we've experienced in the last couple weeks, and I ask you to think about what's coming. And the role that policing will have in this move towards criminalization of vulnerable communities. I ask you commit to exploring safety programs outside policing and commit to a cop-free library. Thank you.
And next, Matthew Stevenson.
Good evening. Thank you. I'd just like to speak to each of y'all's hearts for a minute. I experienced a period of homelessness during a transitional period in my life where I was needing the programs that would help lift me out of this situation and allow me to progress in the recovery from my experiences that had led me into the situation I found myself. Some of those barriers I have to communication with others include social anxiety and a type A personality disorder. These disabilities alone make it extremely difficult for me to communicate with others and to communicate my needs, let alone to fully interact. The library during my period of homelessness was not only a lifeline to the information that I needed in order to overcome my situation, but was also a means of connecting and communicating with friends, doctors, and families to let them know my situation, that I was at least still all right. The library was also a place of sanctuary when the stresses were overwhelming. The library was a place where I knew it would be quiet and soothing, and my anxiety didn't need to be triggered. Law enforcement presence is a trigger to many with the issues that I have. The authority that's attached to that uniform and that badge in an instant visually triggers that unnecessarily in a facility that has access to individuals and accommodating to all in our community it serves. Barriers to access of information do not help to the community that desperately struggles, and a community that has many individuals in need, and we know crime happens when basic needs aren't met. Barriers of access to information perpetuate this struggling, not being able to connect to the programs and services that can change that individual's pathway to their options. I believe continued discussion on alternatives to this particular program of armed, uniformed officers and city taxpayer assets tied up in a facility that is considered accessible to the public it serves. I wish we could have continued additional information sessions about the assessment of the process of the program, contracting the police to patrol the library, and I ask that you commit to a cop-free library. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to comments that were submitted online or via voicemail. Edward, will you be reading those?
MJ Oregon. Having tampon dispensers in men's restrooms hurts no one. It does, however, provide an opportunity for men to have a tampon on hand for their daughters, sisters, wives, girlfriends, or any other person in need of one. This is not a political issue, no matter how much hateful people try to make it one. It's a humanitarian issue. Removing the dispenser is a terrible idea that does not serve the public or your patrons. Do better. Jose Garza. The tampon dispensers in the Central Library men's room have been removed. I want to know why. I have personally used this service to help my girlfriend whenever she ran out of her own pads and the one in the women's was out. I also have heard from friends how much they love that the library put these dispensers in all the bathrooms. As a lot of my friends are part of the LGBTQ community, I've asked staff members and they could not provide a straightforward answer as to why this was done. I really hope this isn't in reaction to the current Trump administration and their handlings of the DEI programs. I think a lot of people are going through the hard times enough as it is, and this is just one more thing being taken away from us. A lot of my classmates now know of this and feel this is a very upsetting decision and should never have been made. Please put the dispensers back in the bathroom, or at least explain why this decision was made. As a member of the male population, I really don't see the issue with this. Like I said before, this was a perfect backup for if my girlfriend or any other menstruating friends needed tampons. And if male members of the public are uncomfortable with this, ask, what would you do when your female child or wife needs you to grab some tampons or pads from the store? This resource is completely free and very convenient. This is really disappointing and extremely upsetting. Chris Castillo. I do not think there should be a policeman in the public library. The library should be a safe place for every single person. We do not need law enforcement harassing people who are visiting the library. This is a ridiculous waste of time and money. There are so many more things that are much more important. John Q. Public. As a transgender man who frequents the Central Library, I was so happy to see menstruating products dispensers installed in the men's restroom despite the rampant transphobia in our current political climate. This month, Sam Nordquist, a 24-year-old black transgender man, was killed after being tortured for over a month. May he rest in peace. Transgender people face disappropriate levels of poverty, bullying, harassment, criminalization, and premature death. My heart sank when I saw the dispensers gone from the men's restroom this week, and my friend confirmed they were still available in the women's restroom. I am writing to ask you why. Was this a library decision or something demanded by another entity? It's one thing to say libraries are for everyone, but providing administrating products in the men's restroom was a meaningful way to show, but providing administrative products in the men's restroom, meaning way to show it. Only providing administrative products in the women's restroom brings to my mind the days of racial segregation in public libraries and the underlying belief that some people are less worthy in access to resources. Be it due to race or gender identity, I do hope we do not escalate back to that level of treatment towards any human beings, but I'm scared about the direction we're heading in. Following orders is no excuse for complexity in erasing trans people or denying our needs. If you give in to this, what's next? Please take extra care in supporting trans and gender diverse patrons during this time, in addition to immigrant patrons, homeless patrons, and other vulnerable people who seek refuge and safety in the library. Helen Ramos. We do not need increased policing in libraries. Libraries are a safe space for many vulnerable people. Keep cops out of our books. Brandon Rengel. As a member of the broader San Antonio community, I just like the idea of more police in public spaces that should be safe and accessible to all members of the city. If safety is an issue, then the funds should go to dedicated social workers to work with our community members who need help. And Humberto Cantanilla, he gave a public statement. It was just asking a question. Ariana Borjanahan. Period products should be accessible to everyone. By taking them away in any regard will lead to eventually no access at all. It is unfair to discriminate against people based on what bathroom they use when you do not know if they menstruate or not. Period poverty is a huge issue, and accessibility is the first step into reducing this poverty. KD. I am voicing my opposition to the pilot program of having SAPD police officers present in the library. To think the police officers will make the library a supposed safer space is not only illogical, but will create opportunities for the library to be unsafe. I understand that this pilot program was prompted by an incident that happened at the downtown library in which a staffer was assaulted by a library visitor. This visitor was clearly having a mental health crisis, and because there were not enough mental health professionals to de-escalate the situation, the infamous incident occurred. Now we are being told that police presence will make the library safer, but police officers are not known for de-escalating situations. Instead, they escalate them with disrespect, violence, and sometimes death. I do not trust the SAPD officer, an organization that is known for having the highest rehire rate of fire police officers in the country, to properly de-escalate a situation. The library is a place where some of our most vulnerable populations congregate to seek community, education, and support. Whether they be women, children, or people of color, low income or unhoused, these populations tend to have the most unsavory experiences with police officers, but now they are supposed to feel safer in a library that has a police officer. If a library visitor is having a mental health crisis, they should be met with a mental health professional who is trained to de-escalate the situation and find solutions or resources for the visitor. A police officer should be out in the community dealing with serious criminals, not in a therapeutic sanctuary of a library. I urge the board to discontinue the pilot program and instead invest in hiring mental health professionals who are better equipped in connecting with vulnerable populations.
Edward, I know we're about halfway through the comments, so we'll hand off to Haley.
Okay. Rachel Cundy. As a San Antonio resident, I am not comfortable with police officers patrolling our libraries. Rather than deterring violence, a police presence serves to deter marginalized people from accessing library services. They may fear profiling due to their race, socioeconomic status, or gender expression. When conflicts do arise, the presence of an armed officer only escalates the situation. I urge the board to commit to no police patrols in libraries so all of us can feel safe and welcome at the library. Kira. Deciding to no longer participate in the entirety of the menstrual equity program does a disservice to the community of San Antonio, a community that I am proud to be part of because I so often see how inclusive this city is. This is a minor change that makes a major difference, and deciding to no longer include men's restrooms singles out a population that needs their community most. Kyla Vance. As an adolescent, my dad always helped me with my period needs and as much as my mom, and if I hadn't had my mom, I couldn't imagine how much lonelier I would have felt as a teenager if my dad hadn't been so supportive. Menstrual products should be available in all public restrooms to help foster a sense of community where we can all support each other and support the hygiene of others. JD. As long as menstrual supplies are available in all women's restrooms at the very minimum, access to these supplies is imperative to health, safety, and quality of life for citizens of San Antonio. Marisa N. DeBow. The Equity Program for Menstrual Products is a very important and groundbreaking program that puts SAPL at the forefront of this nationwide trend. Please do not limit it to female bathrooms. Thank you. Corey Newman. I strongly encourage you to continue providing menstrual products in men's restrooms as part of the Menstrual Equity Program. While this initiative is often framed as supporting transgender men and non-binary individuals, it also benefits other groups who may need access to these supplies. For example, young boys accompanying their mothers or sisters to the library may need a pad or tampon to bring to a family member in need. Additionally, some people with medical conditions or post-surgical needs use pads for non-menstrual reasons. Providing these supplies ensures dignity and accessibility for a range of patrons who may find themselves in an unexpected situation. This small act of inclusivity aligns with the library's mission of serving all members of the community and ensuring equitable access to resources. Thank you for your time and commitment to community care. Tom Webb. This comment is intended to address the decision to remove menstrual products from restrooms in San Antonio Public Library locations. When the initiative was launched, it was communicated to the public that the library was doing this to address period poverty and contribute to a community where barriers to accessing menstrual products would be eliminated while using library restrooms. The library led the community to believe that all individuals should have access to menstrual products to manage their periods in private with dignity, regardless of which bathroom may be used. In a sweeping move, the library removed these products from the men's rooms, perpetuating a narrow view and shallow understanding of the diverse experiences of their patrons, and the community they serve. My question to the board is, what are you doing to do about it? What are you going to do to support all the stakeholders in your community and not just a few naysayers who care more about having to learn to hold empathetic conversations with their children than they do about raising their children in a world that is kind and understanding? Board members, if you can't stand firm in your ability to support the actions of a library that serves a diverse community, then it's time to consider whether or not you're the right person to be filling your seat. It's hard to believe that in this current political climate, decisions like this are a coincidence. The San Antonio Public Library is willfully choosing to contribute to the public erasure of the trans and non-binary experience. It's not a good look. You owe the community transparency. Who made this decision and why? Concerned citizen. I thought librarians were magical, that they had the answers and could make just about anything happen, but that is not the case. Period products in the restrooms was about offering support to the community, breaking the stigma of menstrual health, and providing access to those who needed it. It wasn't a trans issue until you decided to remove the dispensers from the men's restrooms. In that act, you sent a message to the trans community, to the queer community, and all its allies. You slammed the door in our face and told us we are not welcome in your libraries. We are not safe in your libraries. You can no longer claim to support a diverse community. You have lost the trust and confidence of the public you claim to serve by bowing down to those who are actively oppressing us and taking part in our erasure. You are not magical. You have become an instrument of the new fascist regime. Tiffany Corrett. I was so excited when the library added the menstrual products to the bathrooms, and even more so when I found they were put in all restrooms. Having them easily accessible has only helped the community be able to get what they needed, and I can think of no downside to having them. I am supremely disappointed to hear they may be removed. There are a number of reasons why it makes sense to also have these products in the men's room, aside from the obvious that they may be used there, and it gives men the opportunity to form a better understanding of menstrual products. We gain understanding and education by having them in all restrooms and lose nothing. You should not remove them. Katie Scott. I would like to comment on the library's recent pilot program putting police in the Central Library and express my opposition to this program being extended in any way. The library should be a place of learning, not intimidation. Patrons of color, of different sexualities, those with negative experiences with the police, and the unhoused may all feel less safe and more targeted with police presence around. Additionally, I would like to encourage the library to instead put this funding, $70K for the pilot, toward more programming that would benefit underserved patrons, offer activities and ways to engage those who spend significant time in the library, and training security on trauma-informed policies and de-escalation techniques. Gabriella. I believe the Republic Library should be cop-free. Libraries are safe spaces for all people, regardless of economic class, ethnicity, immigration status, etc. The police are overly suspicious of anyone that enters their space, and this is not helpful. If a houseless individual comes in for shelter from the Texas summer heat, a cop may consider them a threat or nuisance, instead of a human person that wants a place to cool down in. Minority children that look dangerous, seem like a threat, will be targeted by cops instead of being seen as kids that just want to read or get their homework done. Cops profile rather than seeing individuals as people. Ananda A.T. Thomas. After reviewing the data for the pilot program allowing SAPD into our libraries, I can see this data paints a very clear picture. It shows that the majority of incidents the police responded to wasn't even under police purview, so your employees were calling police unnecessarily, which could have led to increased escalation of incidents into violent ones. Because that's what police do, escalate situations 8 out of 10 times instead of diffusing or resolving them. But it is also concerning that it seems yourself as the library and/or UTSA decided to use incidents that did not fall under police purview in your data set to make it seem like there were more incidents to validate having armed officers in our libraries. It also seems that sleeping in the library was chosen to be listed as an incident to boost up number of incidents. I've never known anyone dozing off or falling asleep to be a harmful action to anyone. The act of sleep itself is peaceful, but further than that, other libraries across the nation have stepped up to include compassionate and common sense programming to address folks falling asleep in the library because they may be staying warm or cool before heading back outside after they have already used their internet time or other library services during daytime hours, such as playing movies or documentaries, or having more art and crafts hours. I'm also curious why so many of your security guards are unable to de-escalate situations. Perhaps they need more de-escalation training themselves.
Thank you, Haley, and thank you, Edward. Next, we'll move to a report from the Library Board Chair. So I am happy to report that I visited both of my district branches this last month and was happy to see the solar covers at IGO fully operational and people taking advantage of them. It wasn't especially hot the last couple weeks, as you all know, but that was nice, a nice addition. Also, I wanted to just give a little shout out to the team that's been working on No Holds Weekend. I took advantage of the No Holds book and audiobook. I believe it was James by Percival Everett. An excellent story. I really got hooked on it, and I highly recommend that. But being able to just download it and use it immediately was pretty awesome. So I see Adam nodding in feeling accomplished. So thanks for that, Adam, for your work on that. And then finally, I had an opportunity to meet with the city manager and assistant city manager and also our new library director, whose first day will be Monday. Really excited to get started working with him. And we had a nice opportunity to just visit informally prior to his start date. Next, I'll ask trustees to provide updates on library-related activities from the last month. And I did want to acknowledge that a few trustees have shared with me that they have a hard stop for other events that they're attending today. So if you don't have anything to share, that's totally fine. We can go on to that and continue with the agenda as quickly as possible. So I'm going to start to the right with Andrea.
I just want to share that I attended the closing ceremony of the Holocaust Remembrance. I also went to Johnston Library, where the staff did an amazing job of helping my husband with his online account. So they are making sure that everybody has access digitally. And I also got a shout out today for our marketing team, whoever sends the email blast out, because I had several people send me the one that was sent out today about the Chinese tea ceremony, cosplay contest, silent discos. Had a lot of people excited about that one, so keep up the good work.
Yes, I visited my 3 libraries. I still haven't had a chance to touch base with Nicole at Pan American. She's our new manager there, so I'm looking forward to meeting her in person. On January 25th was the Friends meeting. We accomplished quite a lot at the meeting. You'll hear a report later. February 12th was the facilities meeting. We got a lot done there. February 3rd, the naming committee. And lastly, on February 7th, I and some of the other board members were at the World Heritage Center, a grand opening, and it was just lovely. It showcased our library right next door, and so I called it the trifecta, the 3 diamonds and the tiara of the South Side, because of course the World Heritage Center is adjacent to Mission Library, which is adjacent to Mission San Jose, so we couldn't be prouder.
I also attended the World Heritage Center grand opening, and it's just lovely. And I just think they did a great job with it. It looks fabulous, and what a great asset it will be for us. And I know it was a long time in coming, so I'm glad to see it coming to fruition. I stopped at the Brook Hollow Library, and I was very pleased to see how much traffic has picked up since the pandemic. I remember a few times going there after, during the pandemic and right after, and it was pretty absent of people, but it's back. I was very pleased to see that. I also attended the quarterly breakfast with Councilman John Courage. That's always a very interesting meeting to kind of catch up with all the different areas that are active and telling us what's going on across the city. At that time, Councilman Courage was not running for mayor, but since that time, he has thrown his hat in. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I did attend the World Heritage opening, which was just fantastic, and with all the different type of cultural things that were there, it's going to be, like you said, it's a diamond for the South Side. Also, I attended Collin Garden Library. They had a Black History event that they featured a Bob Harley movie, which was very good, and I couldn't believe it, but my neighbors called and asked if I wanted to go to the library. And I said that was really something, because I hadn't, it passed me by, that one. So we went with my neighbors. And then I went to the Schaefer's Friends meeting. And then I went to the Carver. I went when they had the rodeo day at the Carver, and they had the curator from the Whitting Museum was there speaking on the Black Cowboys, and then they had someone there with forming a legacy that was from Prairie University, and it was very informative. And the Friends from the Carver had that event, and then they had another event. It was a breakfast. It was a Black History breakfast where they had a keynote speaker, and I was just really impressed with that. And I also want to thank the staff and the members of the library board for the beautiful flowers and cards that I received during my sister's death. Thank you.
I had actually a pretty short report. I went to the closing of the Holocaust education ceremony. It was amazing. It's a shame if you've missed it. You shouldn't have. And it was wonderful. Good information, and I know that they'll be, over at the JCC, they'll be doing another event in April, and that's something to keep your eye on. And also, I was given a tip to read an amazing book, and I suggest you all read it. It is called The Personal Librarian. It was very enlightening. It was about the library of J.P. Morgan and how that was established. And for Black History Month, it was absolutely perfect.
I visited a couple libraries, one of them being IGO, and it was a Sunday, and it was a sunny day that day, and so I thoroughly enjoyed the solar panel shade. I can foresee that being a great addition in the summer. You can hear it working, so I do look forward to adding more of those to different sites. Also went to the World Heritage Center opening, loved the fact that there were so many people on a Friday morning. Excited to see that. It was nice to see all the mission descendants. I love the cohesiveness of the two buildings, and I look forward to more patrons visiting the Mission Library because we'll be bringing more people from the World Heritage Center, and that whole area is just going to be fantastic. So that was my report.
Yes, so I was part of the February 3rd naming committee meeting and the policy committee, and I also attended the World Heritage Center, which again, to echo everyone, was beautiful. And something I did was visit the Mission Library and the Central Library. But one of the things I did in the Mission Library, and this goes out to all the communities, especially those that telecommute or work from home, I did request a meeting. They were like, can we go to a coffee shop? Instead of the coffee shop, why don't we meet at the library? And so we met at the library, and they were amazed because, of course, you know, when you grow up and work, you forget that there's little conference, like study rooms that you can get to be able to have a meeting there. And also to see that person was not aware of the Mission Library, let alone they were not aware of the World Heritage. So it's also going back and letting our community know all the libraries and the beautiful artwork that we have and the spaces. So next time that you're wanting to have a meeting, instead of thinking coffee shop, you know, think your closest library.
I too attended the naming committee and ad hoc policy committee meetings, and I was at the World Heritage Center ribbon cutting. I know firsthand all the work that was put in, not only on the city side, but on the park side and the nonprofit side. So it was nice to see the whole thing come to life. So thank you.
Hello, I too went to the grand opening of the World Heritage Center, which is just an amazing place. Wow, there were so many people there. Just a lot of pride. It was really beautiful. Oh, it is really beautiful. So I also did, we met, the naming committee met, and facilities also met. I also met with my city council lady, Terry Castillo, twice this month, and I visited Bazan Library, and I think that's it.
I attended the Friends of the San Antonio Public Library annual meeting, also the World Heritage Center grand opening, and I'll just add my praises to everyone else's. It's a beautiful facility, and that campus is just going to be outstanding. I'm looking forward to the traffic that it will bring to that part of the city. I participated in the Board Facilities Committee meeting. The Friday before Valentine's Day, I visited the District 10 field office as well as the District 10 libraries to deliver Valentines and chocolates to say thank you to everybody. And I also attended the District 10 Community Update meeting, which was very informative. Unfortunately, it was the same evening as the Holocaust Learn and Remember closing ceremony, so I wasn't able to go to that, but thought it was important to be out in the community.
Thank you. And next we have an update from our interim library director.
Thank you. So as many of the trustees have mentioned, the closing event for the Holocaust Learn and Remember was on Monday, January 27th. This was our 13th annual Holocaust Learn and Remember program. We had to hold it in a bigger venue, given the success of the program, and so we had an audience of 500. We had remarks that evening from Mayor Ron Nirenberg, Bexar County Commissioner Grant Moody, the Consul General of the Federal Republic of Germany in Houston, Kai Henning, which was really interesting, and then our partner at the museum, the director, Leslie Davis, Matt. We have coming up on March 8th a really big event at the Central Library. It's the annual Pop Madness Pop Culture Convention. And so that's going to be from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we have a very high-profile headline guest, which is Paul Scheer. He's an actor, and he's best known from TV shows like 30 Rock and The League. So we're very excited about that. We anticipate we'll have somewhere between 1,700 and 2,000 participants throughout the day. So put on your best costume and come join us. This has been mentioned in the public input, so an update on the Menstrual Equity Program. The Menstrual Equity Program was inspired by a staff suggestion from the IDEA Incubator. It aims to reduce barriers to library services and combat period poverty by offering free tampons and pads in all library locations. As we near the end of the pilot period, it's time to evaluate the initial results. And during this evaluation phase, dispensers will be removed from the men's restrooms. Data on usage patterns, administrative costs, and community feedback will be compiled and prepared for a future report. As Jaspreet mentioned, we are well underway, which is a good thing because it's the Wednesday before the Monday our new director starts, on the transition. We have done everything from prepare the office to kind of get a day one set up, and we're working on a week one for Sukrit Goswami, our new director. As Jaspreet mentioned, he'll join us on Monday, March 3rd, which is the day before Mardi Gras. We've also, continuing the theme of Mardi Gras, we've kicked off the budget process. So the city's budget process has kicked off. There was a city council B session last week in which the budget director shared the calendar for the budget process for fiscal year 2026. And so I consulted with Vice Chair Harris, who's the chair of the budget committee, and we'll be having our first budget committee meeting next week. So you'll be hearing more about the budget process. And then finally, last month, the board asked some excellent questions about our performance metrics report that's in the director's report, because there were some trends that we were trying to explain. So in your director's report, in your packet in front of you, for the performance section, we have some corrected numbers. So these are with respect to the virtual engagements page for November and December report. So you're going to see those reports again in your packet in addition to January. The corrected numbers appear on page 39 and also on page 48. So page 39 is the November corrected numbers, and page 48 is the December corrected numbers. So as we discussed last month, one of the reasons the very good questions came up from the board was we were showing a negative trend in virtual engagements and virtual impressions year over year. So it looked like a very dramatic trend. Based on those questions, we went back and re-examined our calculations, and we found them to be an error, which is good news because the corrected numbers show a positive trend. So we wanted to point that out and just thank you again for the discussion. And we are kind of going to redouble our efforts to make sure that we are looking carefully at our calculations. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Kathy. In reverse order, I just wanted to say thank you for the update to the engagement numbers. We don't have a ton of time now to go through it, but I'll encourage all of the trustees, take a look at that. I think it's good to have an idea, have the full picture. So this is the lighter color is November, and then I'm not good with colors. This orangey color is December. So take a look at that, and if there's any follow-up questions, we can definitely ask Kathy about that. And then for Pop Madness, it's an awesome event. I've attended with my kids a couple times, so I'm really excited about that. Paul Scheer is a really major player, and so I can only imagine the lines are going to probably be out the door to see him. If those of you who haven't seen The League, it's probably a good thing. It's not very work appropriate or child appropriate, but it's a hilarious show. So I think that's awesome. Next, we have a report from the Executive Committee, and we did meet on February 18th to set the agenda for today's meeting. Next. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, of course I do. We do. I skipped over the budget report by accident.
Not
Thanks.
at all. I will
Thanks,
keep
Kathy.
it very brief because I know about the hard stop you mentioned, just brief. So in your packet on green paper is the monthly budget report. This is for the fiscal year-to-date through January 31st. We are a third of the year, a third of the way through the fiscal year. And you will see that for personnel services, we're right on track with that time period elapsed. As is typical for us, contractual services, because of the timing of some payments and encumbrances, we're ahead. And that is due to those encumbrances, and some contracts we pay a yearly fee as opposed to a proportional fee throughout the year. We're slightly ahead on commodities against the time that's elapsed. Again, that's some timing differences. We don't anticipate to have any overall budget overages for the year. And then for other expenditures, that's proportional to the time elapsed as well as scheduled line items. Capital outlay, you'll see, is at 16% on page 3. That is typical because capital outlay is things like furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And so there always is a time lag between when we place those orders, when the funding's available, and when we actually receive them and expend the funds. We are 100% spent on our major gifts for 2024. The Library Foundation gift of $230,853. We spend every dollar. And then the Friends gift of $40,500. Those are fully committed and expended. So those will drop off the report next month, and we'll focus on the new gifts, which come in about January. And so it's very early days with this January report, but you'll start seeing that spending ticking up as well. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Kathy, I'm sorry, but I forget about, it just didn't come. What is the rental of equipment? The rental of equipment under the city general fund?
Okay. You're talking about in contractuals?
Yeah, the contractual
Get
service.
to that line, yes. So that one is a very, very large percentage overspent, as well as an absolute dollar amount of almost 40,000. This is where we place the expenditures for rentals of temporary cooling and heating units. And so, as you know, we're very fortunate to have a lot of heating, ventilation, and cooling projects funded, but it takes time to do the design, et cetera, and so often we have to do remediation through temporary cooling units, and that's a rental.
Any other questions? Okay.
I just have a quick question. On participation booth fees, I know we spend what event was that?
What line item is that under?
Line item, I'm sorry, line item participation booth fees.
I don't know particularly for that $1,000 expenditure. I might have to research that. But typically what that is when we have to pay some kind of fee to participate in an event where maybe we have a table and it's not gratis. But in terms of the particular purpose that was spent on, I'll research that. And I could email that answer around to the board if that's acceptable. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Kathy. Next, the report from the Advocacy Committee. Judy?
We did not meet, but we will be meeting soon.
Okay, thank you. And a report from the Budget Committee?
We did not meet.
Okay, and Kathy shared that there will be a meeting next week. Report from the Facilities Committee, Andrea?
Did meet, and for sure we have 2 items up today.
Yes, we did meet on earlier this month, and we do have several action items coming to the board later for consideration. And then we also had some project updates that we provided last week, or 2 weeks ago, actually. So the first one would be the Texana Resource Center. So this one is moving along, it's picking up a little speed now, so they're at about 50% completion in construction. We had a couple of big deliveries in the last few weeks. On January 22nd, they brought in all of the equipment for the high-density shelving that's going to be going in the new vault. That was all taken up to the 6th floor on January 22nd. And then it was exciting on, what day was that? That was February 13th. We had an exciting evening here where the crane came in and it dropped off some air conditioning equipment up on the roof. So it was a fun evening, and the contractor blocked off the road, and so it was fun to watch all that good equipment come, and now our contractors can get going on the vault and finish that thing up. So the other piece we've got is, the other piece we've got is the Landa HVAC project that's ongoing. We have finished the first phase of that, which was fixing 6 of the units, and we were testing how we were going to do that. Now we're evaluating with the consultant and the contractor how we're going to proceed in the next phase on that project, and we'll bring that information back to the board when we have that decision made. The next project is the Semmes Branch patio restoration. So this is one where we've been had to tear out all the back patio of the building and take out a lot of the soils. So they've removed all the soils. We are currently at a little standstill on that job for the next couple of weeks because the design team is designing some redesigns of a couple of areas of the building, so some irrigation and some soil reconditioning they have to do. So they're going to do those designs. We'll get some change orders from the contractors, and that job will be moving back over again in the next few weeks. And we're looking at a spring completion for that. The John Igo Library, that was a project that has been talked about earlier this evening. It has been completed. It is 100% up and running now. As you can see, we've got the solar canopy to the left or to the right there, and then we've got a couple different canopies up on the roof. So that is moving along. We had a walkthrough of that last week. It's very interesting. You can look at the power meter, and there's a little arrow on the power meter that shows if the power is coming from the grid or if it's coming from the panel. So it's very good to see that. The day we were there, it was cloudy, so there wasn't a lot of power coming from the grid, but it'll improve. So that's going to be exciting. The other project we have is a lighting upgrade that we're going to be doing at several of our locations. The Office of Sustainability has obtained some funding to do lighting retrofits at 3 of our locations: Semmes Branch Library, Maverick Library, and Garrow Library. We're going to actually be meeting not this week, but next week to start planning those projects and working with the consultant and getting them into the libraries to start doing their study. And then we will not be closing any of the branches for this work. And we will coordinate all the work with the staff to make sure that we cordon off certain areas, and then we'll do a lot of the work when we're not open. So And that is it for my report. Any questions? The construction report is in your packet, and you can certainly ask any questions if you have any from that.
I have one question, and it's about that lighting retrofit.
Yes. Mhm.
Is there any plan to just do a measurement as part of our sustainability, just our awareness of sustainability? Because I know we have other solar projects on the books planned for future branches, to be expanded to future branches. Is there any plan to measure how much electricity is currently being used by those lights, and then post the replacement, what the improvement is?
That'll definitely be something we'll discuss. I'm sure it's part of the project because they usually they have to prove they're going to have savings in order to get the funding, so I'm sure that's going to be part of it, but we'll definitely double check on that and make sure we have that report.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be great. Thank you. Any other questions for Mark? Okay, thank you, Mark. Next, we'll move to report from the naming committee. Josie?
We did meet. Is Dale here?
Yes.
Okay, great. There he is.
Very short, the naming committee did meet and will have items for your consideration in the March meeting.
We have a report from the ad hoc board policy committee.
Did meet on February 6th. I don't know if Dale wants to add to this, but we are discussing the minors and individuals with disabilities policy. Hope to bring that soon to the board.
Hopefully, we'll be able to bring that in March or April, depending on the agenda in March.
Okay, thank you both. Next, a report from the ad hoc ILA committee. And the committee did meet on February 18th. Kathy, would you like to provide an update?
Sure. So the interlocal agreement for fiscal year 2025, the current fiscal year, was approved by the county commissioners on December 10th last year. And so the county has now come up to date on the monthly payments for library services. So the payments have been made and are up to date.
And then next, a report from the San Antonio Public Library Foundation, Amy Hone. She's ready for the rodeo.
I'm just trying to deal with the weather and figure out what season it is. So I wanted to let you know that in a couple of weeks, you should be seeing our annual report coming out. Our marketing director, Denise Liedka, has once again designed something a little bit crazy. So, we're not at the point where it's going to walk out of the envelope on its own steam yet, but she's working on that. So hopefully everyone will enjoy that. We will shortly be kicking off our fundraising for Katrina Balls. So once again, November 1st at the Tobin Center. I've talked about that a couple of times, but we are getting going with that. So we will shortly be asking the new director to be our Katrine once he gets started. But other than that, we have Diana Barrios Trevino and her husband Roland Trevino as our executive chairs this year, and we are just still discussing a Katrina, and we're super excited about that and the Tobin as a venue because they've been really great. One of the things we've learned, which is just kind of a funny thing that I thought I'd mention, normally we do the kind of walking around, Mexican street party thing with the small food. Plated dinner is cheaper, so we're going to do a plated dinner this year. So that'll be something that'll be a little bit of a change. Of course, we'll still have all the fun entertainment and everything else, so it won't be a standard gala, but we'll keep as much of Katrina Ball as we can, but the food will be a little bit more upscale, and it's going to save us money. So that was a nice surprise for us. We are visiting potential schools for our literacy caravan program for next school year. We're visiting them in May, kind of to fill our pipeline. So if you do have a school in your district that you would like us to consider, please shoot me an email. Those schools need to be Title I schools and have fairly low reading proficiency scores. So those are two of the criteria that we look at. We also do try to make sure that we are hitting all 10 city council districts. So you'll get priority if you're in a district that somehow we missed this year, because sometimes we'll miss one or two based upon the responsiveness of the schools. So we do have a couple of districts that will be higher priority. So please email me with your suggestions, and we will definitely take a look at them. Gina, our program director, is keeping that list, and we're looking forward to going to some different schools next year. Our new board members that I mentioned the last time are already making a big impact. Kathy and Dale and I had a great meeting with Will Wilkins from Valero, and he should be able to really help out the library in all different kinds of ways, in addition to helping the foundation out. He's the global director of security, construction, and facilities for Valero. So he's really excited to get going. He grew up across the street from the Cortez Library, so he is passionate about libraries and anxious to get going. Christina from HEB, who joined our board, has already made a huge impact on our programs, donating bilingual books for the Literacy Caravan, which is the only kind of book that we've been spending money on in the last 5 years, because we've gotten English language books donated from Literati, as I've mentioned in the past. But she also has donated some fun things to go along with our Born to Read program. So Born to Read, we give away the bilingual board books, between 10 and 15,000 of those a year, and a little tote bag. Well, HEB had overstock of baby onesies that say cute things like fresh from the oven and Born Texas Tough and all of that. And they had a huge excess of those. So we've already distributed to our partners about 7,500 baby onesies that they'll be giving out with the books and the bags. So that's just a little fun thing that she's added to our board already, and both of them just joined in January. So that's what we've been doing in the last month. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
The next board meeting?
Next board meeting is in March, and it is, hang on, let me look at my calendar. Good thing I have my iPad. March 19th. At noon, and it is at Pan American.
Amy, great update. Okay, and next we have a report from the Friends of the San Antonio Public Library. Liz Alves Presley, welcome.
Well, I'm looking forward to a very exciting 2025 for the Friends of the San Antonio Public Library. It certainly has been a very busy first month for me. I've set up individual meetings with our new board members for their orientation and saving the expense of a large meeting. I'm reviewing the board's committee structure as well. I'm trying to reestablish the Friends group in branches where they are no longer active. I've identified 4 different groups at the Johnston's Library and have met with 2 of them. And soon I'm going to meet, as of tomorrow morning, with another group, and then I have another meeting scheduled. I found lots of interest and think that there will be a Friends group to come about at Johnston's very soon. Also, Pan American has had 2 people sign up, and that Friends group is totally inactive over there. And so I'm going to start on the recruiting right after Johnston to try to get more people interested over at Pan American. That one will be a great challenge. I'm working on improving public exposure for the Friends and the bookseller. Ben, the manager, and I are going to be going on the morning talk shows to talk about the exciting things going on in the bookseller, and I'll be talking about the Friends group and showing off the new logo. We are also working on getting maybe a few articles in several newspapers talking about both of the bookseller and the Friends. Friends will have a table at the book festival again this year for recruiting new members, and they're going to be selling some Fiesta medals. I have begun planning my meetings to visit the different Friends groups, and I'm asking them what they want from me as their president. So far, the most common answer is communication. So I'm working on that to keep communication going throughout the months. And I'm going to try to bring into some very positive thoughts and ideas to the Friends group. I want to be able to give the answer of, yes, let's talk about that idea, instead of, no, we're not going to do it. The next Friends Board meeting will be March 23rd at 2 p.m. at Johnson Branch Library. Hope y'all can attend.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have a staff report update on the San Antonio Public Library card campaign.
I'm excited to provide a report on the success of our My SAPL, My Card library card campaign that we ran in September and October of this year. I'm going to do something a little out of character for me and stick to my notes, because I could go on and talk about this campaign forever. It was a pleasure to work on, and it was a huge lift for the entire library system, and I was honored to just be a part of it, let alone spearhead it. So I'll start with just a little bit of background, and I think that it's important to situate some of the numbers that you'll see by providing a baseline. And so that baseline is that currently, right now today, we have a little over 278,000 active SAPL card holders. Those are people who have a library card and have used it for a library card service in the last 12 months. So that'll help provide a little bit of context for some of the numbers that you'll see on the next slide. As a reminder, when I came and introduced this campaign to you all at the August board meeting last year, we identified 3 goals or anticipated outcomes for this campaign. The first and most important, of course, was to increase new users system-wide with extra focus on branches and areas where we identified as having the potential for more growth. Second was to raise publicity and awareness of our brand. And third was to message to our existing patrons and try and re-engage them, bring people back into the library if they hadn't been here in a little while. So I am going to try not to bury the lead here and start with the question that's on everybody's mind, which is how many people signed up. So our overall results for the campaign from the period of September 1st to October 31st, 2024 was we registered over 14,000 new accounts, and we re-engaged over 17,000 library users who came in and exchanged their card for one of our new designs. So all total, we issued over 31,000 new cards in the months of September.
That's excellent.
So I do want to dig into the details a little bit. News of our card campaign, our new designs were reported on every major broadcast station in San Antonio. That included KBB and WOAI, KENS 5, KSAT, Texas Public Radio. We also received extensive online and print publication coverage in places such as MySA, Axios, Community Impact, and of course the Express News. The day that our card campaign launched, we were featured in the daily Axios newsletter, which goes out to tens of thousands of San Antonians on a daily basis. This screenshot, this sort of blurry screenshot, because it's captured from our media monitoring service, is from a segment that I did on KSAT's SA Live in mid-September. We created oversized novelty variants of our library cards, and I took the hosts through a rigorous SAPL trivia game. The segment was really well received by the hosts and also by the producers, so much so that the producers gave an open door for SAPL to come back on SA Live as often as we are able. So I'll be doing that on Thursday of next week to promote Pop Madness. So I'll be back on SA Live next week. Overall, our public relations efforts resulted in 21 feature stories that reached an audience of over 1.3 million people. I focus on feature stories because those are stories that were wholly and specifically about this campaign. The card campaign was mentioned in many other stories throughout the 2 months, but we had 21 feature stories that were just strictly about our card launch. The media value of that coverage, which is an estimate of how much it would cost to purchase equivalent advertising, was a little over $100,000. So that's media that we earned on behalf of the library system that meant we didn't have to pay for it in terms of advertising. The campaign was also a huge hit on social media. Purely organic reach across Facebook, Instagram, and X for our posted content for this campaign was over 130,000 social media accounts. That content also generated over 9,000 engagements, which is an engagement rate of 7.2%, which is a little more than double our average social media engagement rate across our accounts. This includes organic posts from the library accounts and content shared to our stories. It does not include metrics from shared posts, which is notable because, for example, our announcement post on Facebook was shared 144 times. So there's a lot of echo chamber data that Meta unfortunately doesn't give us access to. So we know that our actual impression count was much higher than that. But just the organic posts that we posted, things that we posted directly to the library's social media accounts, earned a little over 130,000, reached 130,000 accounts. Overall, impressions on our social media account during the campaign period, so this is all the content that we posted, was a little over 835,000, or a 61% increase over the same period the previous year. So what that tells us is that a lot of people, whether it was specifically to seek out information about the card campaign or not, were paying attention to our social media feeds those 2 months because of the additional publicity that we were receiving. We also saw a healthy increase in new followers. We got over 1,000 new followers across our 3 primary social media sites during the campaign period. In addition to organic social media, we also purchased and placed ads on Facebook and Instagram. Those ads, which we budgeted a little over $800 for, reached 292,000 accounts, and it produced over 5,000 clicks to our website. We learned that billboards work during this campaign. Billboards were an important component of this campaign to help us reach new users outside of our existing patron base. In order to reach new users, we worked closely with Clear Channel Outdoor to identify neighborhood-level billboards within 1 mile of library locations that we identified as demonstrating the most potential for growth for new cardholders. In most cases, those billboards were actually within a few blocks, but we tried to get them as close as possible to the actual library locations so that folks who were walking by at the pedestrian level or driving by on their daily commute would see the billboard, see the library off and on over the course of the month and make that connection. In order to measure the success of this tactic, we compared the new cardholder rate at all of our locations in September and October 2024 to that same period in 2023, and the results speak for themselves. So for locations that were not part of the targeted billboard campaign, we saw a healthy increase of 13% new users in that September to October period over the same period the previous year. At locations where we placed billboards, that number was 21%. So we saw a significant number more people come into the locations where there was a billboard nearby. So we increased that foot traffic. Early on in the campaign development, we identified that our website landing page for signing people up for library cards lacked important information about the process and the benefits and options for getting a library card. Information about physical cards, digital cards, enhanced library cards, and renewals was split across numerous web pages on mysapl.org. So our team worked to produce a new landing page that orients prospective cardholders to the process and extols the benefits of having and using a library card. So just to demonstrate how transformative this improvement was and as a lasting benefit of this campaign, here is what users used to see when they clicked on the Get a Library Card button on our webpage. Or if they Googled Get a Library Card and they arrived at our library card sign-up page, they would see this splash page, which gave them a little bit of information in English and Spanish about how to sign up for a library card. So we changed that to this. And So what this does is it helps, there's a lot more below the fold on this page, but what this does is it helps orient people to what they can do with their library card, and it condenses all the information about the different kinds of library cards you can get, including the enhanced library card or renewing your card, into one handy online resource. So now all of our traffic related to library cards goes to this one online resource. We also worked with our colleagues in digital service to enable Google Translate in the header of our libguides, which are our staff-created and managed web pages, so that the page is translatable into Spanish. This webpage had a little over 31,000 visits to it over the course of the campaign. That's just in September and October. So finally, just for fun, here are the top designs as measured by how quickly we ran out of certain cards. So number one was what we call our Folklorico Flowers design. This one was out at most locations pretty quickly, followed closely by what we call Boots and Bluebonnets, and then third, the City Skyline, which features the Central Library really vibrantly and brightly right there in the left-hand corner of that card. That's actually a photograph that we recreated and gave kind of like a manga anime treatment to give it that ethereal look. I want to end by recognizing that great marketing begins and ends with a great product. And for this effort, we had an incredible product thanks to the creativity and ingenuity of our graphic design team. And I'm getting a little emotional because I don't get to get up here and talk about them as much as I should. Our design team of Aurora Balderas-Martinez, Anna Farr, and Giselle Waite were the driving force behind this campaign, and they created artwork that resonated with our community and brought people into the library, and it creates a lasting memory for those people with the library. And so I just want to really thank them for their work. The campaign was also a huge success thanks to the contributions of Sarah Lindley, who is our Access Services Manager. Sarah's expert coordination with our system-wide circulation team made the implementation of the new cards absolutely seamless, and I can't thank her enough. And finally, I just want to give a huge shout out to our incredible team of circulation attendants who processed over 30,000 new cards in September and October. The staff members at our circulation desks, as you all know, exemplify professionalism and excel at customer service every day. And a campaign of this scale simply would not be possible without all of them. So this concludes my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I had a question because you talked about the extensive media engagement you had, and I may have missed it, but did you have some Spanish-speaking media as well? Were you able to engage with them?
So in addition to the English broadcast stations that I mentioned, the coverage of our card campaign was also covered on both Telemundo and Univision. We didn't do any on-camera live interviews, but news of the campaign was covered by those two outlets, yes. Good question, Josie, thank you.
I have a question that's completely off this subject, but a word game that I play online has recently begun popping up SAPL ads. And I was just wondering about the pipeline that goes through. The most recent one that I saw was for Pop Madness.
So we as you may or may not know, we have a relatively modest advertising budget. Beth, I think you know that pretty well. So one of the most effective ways that we can utilize that advertising budget is in social media ads, because we're able to leverage, without getting too creepy, the information that you provide to social media sites. So something in your profile, whether it's your love of the library or interest in pop culture, is one of the search terms that we're using to identify people who might be a good fit for that advertisement. So that's how we're providing those ads. And those ads have been running for about 3 weeks. They'll continue to run through next week, and there's an ad set of 4 different advertisements that are featuring some of the different featured authors that we have at Pop Madness.
But this was not on a social media site. It was on a game site.
It does also contract out with some other app service providers to serve that content to users. So it may be that you're logged into that app with your Facebook account, or that the app is either owned by Facebook or served by the Meta advertising service.
I just wanted to say that I was very impressed. So.
I'm glad. I wasn't sure where we were going with that.
Definitely not critical. No.
Okay, I have a question. You mentioned there was 3 social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram. You talked about quite a bit. What's the third one? Oh, okay, it's X. So the SAPL is not on Snapchat.
SAPL is not on Snapchat. There are a number of social media sites that we are not allowed to engage in according to city policy. Snapchat is one of those.
Okay, Snapchat was one. I wasn't aware of that. Thank you. Well, I just want to say generally, apart from Beth's targeted ads, I think it's amazing, really well done. And I also want to +1 the praise that you gave your team. The entire team, the circulation, all the way to the graphic designers is truly wonderful. But specifically, the graphic designers, we don't get to talk about enough. And all of the cards, not just the winning ones, were really beautiful, and I think really helped to encapsulate the different personalities of San Antonio. So well done. Thank you.
I just had one question, I'm sorry. And on that note, congratulations on the campaign. It's fantastic, and all of the signups you've had. So there are no more, is that right?
We have
Okay.
inventory of some of the designs. The flowers card is almost completely out. Boots is pretty rare, and Skyline is getting there. The rest of the cards we have a relatively healthy supply of.
Okay.
They're running low at some locations. We had about, I think we had 70,000 total of all the new designs. So we've done a little over half of those. Yeah, so we still
Still
have.
available, a few. Okay. All right. Great job. Thank you.
Ordering?
Not going to, the intention is not to reorder these specific cards, but I may have undersold a little bit that on the first slide it did refer to this as phase 1 of this campaign, because what we are doing is talking about what the next round of custom library cards is going to look like. So we will continue this. It was obviously a huge success and it was well received. Not be these specific cards, but there will be new designs available at your local library soon.
Great, thank you, Scott. Next, we'll review and consider approval of the designs for the on-site solar projects at Las Palmas and Brook Hollow Branch Libraries.
Yes, so it's my pleasure to introduce from our Office of Sustainability for the City, Ashley Williams, who's an energy manager. And I don't think Golda Obenzu is with us tonight, or do I not see her? No, but I just wanted to also recognize her in absentia, because Golda's been a really great partner along with Ashley for us on all of our energy efficiency efforts. Golda is the Deputy Sustainability Officer. So I will hand it over to Ashley so she can walk us through a design approval for 2 locations for on-site solar.
Background about the municipal on-site solar project for the city of San Antonio. It was approved by City Council back in November of 2023. This is going to include the installation of about 42 sites of both rooftop and the shade structure canopies across the city, and we expect to be wrapping that up no later than the end of fiscal year 2026. So what is that solar going to do for us? It's going to save the city $1.8 million per year in energy. It's going to offset 11% of the entire city's electricity usage, and it'll also help reduce our building-related emissions by 18%. Another great thing about the project is it's not a here today, gone tomorrow type of arrangement. We do have a 15-year full-service operations and maintenance contract with the solar installer, and that includes remote monitoring of the system. So if anything goes wrong, they're notified and they can send their crews out. It also includes scheduled annual maintenance and unscheduled visits should something go wrong. Of course, the product warranties are going to be provided with the closeout documentation, so we'll turn over that along with the final design over to library staff when the projects are completed. Las Palmas was actually brought to you all last year as a canopy and a rooftop, but it was requested that it be done only on the roof. So the new design is 207 kilowatts, and that's going to offset about 81% of the energy there at the branch. Brook Hollow, I think that was presented last year as well, but we wanted to relocate the canopy structure to the new parking lot. So the new parking lot has been completed, so we're asking for you all to approve that design today.
And Ashley, I can just share a little bit of context. So for Las Palmas, this was the project where the original suggestion was to have the parking canopies in the front of the building. That was really the only feasible space, but that was going to block our beautiful public art going forward, as well as the big expansion on the front. So Office of Sustainability was able to go back to the vendor Big Sun Solar to redesign it, so it's still the same energy savings, it's still perfectly feasible, but it'll be, we're recommending rooftop, so as to avoid that issue. And then Bracalo Branch Library, the thought was originally to do parking, it was always parking canopies, but to do it in the existing parking lot, but that's when we weren't sure when we were going to be able to complete the expansion. So now we are recommending it be in the expanded lot, and that's going to provide a lot of great shade to that new parking area. So the Facilities Committee did approve this to go forward to the board for consideration tonight. They approved that at their February 12th meeting for both the Las Palmas design and the Bracalo design. And so you can see the requested action on the screen. Yep, now you can. Thanks, Ashley.
Okay, so we'll review and I'll accept nominations a motion, thank you. A motion to consider the approval of these designs for Las Palmas and Bracalo, and then we can discuss any potential questions that we have once we have a motion on the floor.
So you want us to make a motion? Okay. I move we accept the recommendations of the Facilities Committee and approve the designs for the on-site solar projects at Las Palmas and Bracalo Branch Libraries.
Marcy?
I second.
Beth, thank you, Beth. Okay, so we have a first and a second. We can start with questions about the project, if there are any. And I believe the Office of Sustainability Projects do appear in this yellow packet. I'm trying to find it. I thought I saw it earlier. Yes, it is here on page 13, starting on the bottom of page 13, if anybody wants to take a look at that. I had a question about the Bracalo project, if you could address that. So for Bracalo, if we can go back to that slide. I see that there is some areas that are included and some areas that are not included in the expansion. Can you talk a little bit about why there wasn't more coverage?
So generally, we are limited by how much energy we want to produce. So we don't want to build the system to produce more than 80% on average of what the building is producing. So we don't want to build more than the building needs, basically. The second thing that might have happened is where the interconnection points are. So a matter of, can they run the conduit to the place where it connects? In this particular design, it looks like, I think it's not working. If you look in the corner right by that tree, that might not have been a large enough place to put the canopy. But I would say for this particular site, it's because they didn't want to overproduce energy.
So when you say overproduce, you mean produce more than they consume?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
And just out of curiosity, why not?
As if we sell it, if it goes back to the city, they don't give us the retail rate, they give us the wholesale rate. So it's really not in our best interest, and it makes the financials of the project go down if you build more, because you're not getting any more for it, basically.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Edward, can you lead us in a roll call vote? Thank you, Ashley.
Carla Gugiolo,
Aye.
Ann Harris,
Aye.
Martinez, Andrea Sanchez Muñiz,
Aye.
Marianne Valdez Hernandez,
Aye.
Nanda Cardenas,
Aye.
Michelle Dalvez Robledo,
Aye.
Marcy Inks,
Aye.
Beth Graham, Judy Cruz,
Aye.
Core.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next, we'll review and consider on-site solar installations at 7 additional branch library locations: Bazan, Encino, Macrelis, Maverick, Memorial, Mission, and Schaefer.
So another exciting development for us at the library is that the city's overall project, as the project went along, there were a few sites that actually ended up not being feasible. So the Office of Sustainability approached the library knowing that the board is very supportive of having additional libraries participate in the on-site solar project. So tonight, we're bringing forward to you an additional 7 locations that can participate in the program if the board approves tonight. So this is just the initial point. This is what you did previously, where it went to Facilities Committee and then the board to do the original 4 sites, which are in progress now. This would be to add an additional 7 sites. So Bazan, Encino, Macrelis, Maverick, Memorial, Mission, and Schaefer. A big consideration for proposing the particular sites is, as Ashley just mentioned, which are financially feasible to the project, which have a site that's conducive for the project. Like, for example, if we end up doing rooftop solar for these, there has to be enough roof to generate enough power to make it make sense. And so these are the sites that, in coordination with them, we have identified. I can show you the map of how that lays out. So the first 4 that you see on this listing are the original 4 that you approved. And then, of course, IGO's complete. And you just approved the Las Palmas design and the Brook Hollow design, so those will go forward. And then Carver Branch Library is in a little bit earlier stage because we're in design development for the bond project, so that'll come forward to you later. Then it shows the 7 locations that the Facilities Committee deliberated on and is recommending and moving forward to the board. And so this map just kind of shows you, if you approve these additional locations, what does it look like for the whole city? There are a couple of board members who are on the Facilities Committee, and they said, hey, how about my district? Because there are some blanks. And so you can see kind of this blank area. I won't call them out by name, but you can figure it out. And so they said, what about us? And so we've talked about the other projects that we can also do in addition to on-site solar. So LED lighting retrofit, for example, we talked about the SIMS project tonight. And then in the future, the EV project for the city will move forward. It's on pause right now, but those are some other opportunities of other ways that we can do sustainability and energy efficiency at library locations. So the Facilities Committee did take prior action on February 12th to approve moving this forward to the board for consideration. And so that is the action item before you tonight.
Okay, thank you, Kathy, for that update. So we have an action item. I'll entertain a motion for this on-site solar installation at 7 additional branch library locations.
To accept the recommendation of the Facilities Committee and approve on-site solar installations at Bazan, Encino, Macrelis, Maverick, Memorial, Mission, and Schaefer branch libraries.
Second.
First from Judy and a second from Michelle. Edward?
Carla Guglielmo. Joanne Harris.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Andrea Sanchez Muniz.
Aye.
Marianne Valdez Hernandez.
Aye.
Linda Cardenas. Michelle Dalvez Robledo.
Aye.
Marcy Inks.
Aye.
Beth Graham. Aye. Judy Cruz.
Aye.
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you.
As the designs are developed, they'll be brought forward to the Facilities Committee and the board for approval.
Okay, thank you, Kathy, and thank you again, Ashley. Next, we have our final our agenda item, consider delegating to the library director the authority to set closure dates for HVAC projects at the following branch library locations:
Maverick, Bazan, Cody, Collins Garden, and Landa.
Good afternoon. Start with a brief background regarding this item. This was presented to the Facilities Committee and approved at that level for the Library Board's consideration. And essentially, since 2022, the Library Board has delegated to the Library Director the closure dates for HVAC projects. And this has taken place for a number of reasons, primarily to be as flexible as we can. As soon as the equipment arrives, we immediately would like to take action, and this allows us to do that so that we can close the branch and get that HVAC work done and open the branch up as quick as we can. Many times we're hitting summer months. We're in February at 80 degrees, and so we're very cognizant that temperature, climate control is very important to our locations. So this is essentially a ability for the library to move quickly. But of course, we always ensure that the public is aware of the closure time frame. We try to have a 30-day lead time, so it's not a tomorrow thing, but we do try to give that time frame as well. So I will run through some quick bullet points for the board's consideration. So as a library system, as we move forward and look at any closure for any library location, we consider several things. Summer reading program, as we know, is a vital and critical program in our community, so we are very cognizant of that. We look at any interim service plans. We try to make those arrangements well in advance to inform the community and make sure that the disruption to service is minimal as possible. Many library locations, as you know, serve as voting sites, and so we also do coordinate with Bexar County Elections to ensure that there's not an interruption to service as the library serving as a voting site, or if there's well in advance notice so that they can prepare. We also coordinate with the Friends because we see them as our partners and we work together, and we want to make sure that if there's a book sale planned or any other activity that we work together so that we also do not have a negative impact on their ability to fundraise for the library system. Additionally, and this is a newer trend for us, is summer temperatures are rising, and if we are seeing that our current systems at our library locations are failing, and we are unable through the rental of other equipment or even to fix the unit, because if we're fixing a unit that's pretty much disrepair, we want to also be fiscally responsible too. So we look at the summer temperatures, in particular more summer, just to see if it makes more sense to perhaps close a little bit before the equipment arrives because we've lost the ability to properly cool that facility. And then we always look at how many libraries are closed in that area, not just that district, but in that area. So we always are cognizant to try and schedule those closures to ensure that we do that. And so we have funding this year for 5 HVAC projects. All of these projects are at a point where we do need to replace these systems. And so we have funded, the city has funded these projects, and we are in the process of executing these projects. And so the action before you today is for delegation to the library director to select the closure dates for these 5 projects. And so we have the Bazan Branch Library, we have the Cody Branch Library, Collins Garden, Landa, and Maverick. I will say that the Maverick Branch Library is coming up soon. That equipment's been ordered. That location has multiple failures in that system. We've been on site several times to meet with the staff to look at contingency if we don't make it until we're expecting the equipment, for example, to potentially arrive in April. But things happen, so we're already planning ahead of time. Our next critical path is Cody, because Cody is also a location that has a unique design, and so bringing in portable coolers is a challenge for us. So we are very aware of all of the intricacies. Every location is different. Each of them takes a different approach to work with. The Landa Branch Library, as Mark mentioned in the construction update, we're in that process, and we tried to install or repair those units while we were open. We've realized that we tried it. It was a little problematic because we would do the work during non-public hours, but then we'd have to cycle through the system. And so we're learning from that experience and realizing we may actually have to close for a little bit. We always try to limit that closure, but in that experience, we're looking at that. So it is included here. Of course, the library does a comprehensive communication plan as we move forward with our projects. So we keep our community members and stakeholders informed. We ensure that the facilities committee and the board are updated. So we will let you know in advance of any closures and as the closure is taking place, how that is progressing. And then we also put signage at the libraries to ensure that the community is aware of what's happening, why is it closing, and so forth. And so the requested action before the board is to accept the recommendation from the Facilities Committee and authorize a delegation of closure dates to the library director for these 5 HVAC projects of Bazan, Maverick, Cody, Landa, and Collins Garden.
Thank you, Jessica. So we'll entertain a motion for the requested action.
I'll make a motion to delegate to the library director authority to set closure dates for HVAC projects at Maverick, Bazan, Cody, Collins Garden, and Landa Branch Libraries.
And I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a first from Beth and a second from Andrea. Any questions or comments on this action item?
I do just want to share one thing we talked about in facilities, especially for our newer board members. One of the main reasons why we do this, and we've done this in the past, is because if it wasn't delegated, then we would have to meet as a facilities committee and all get together at a similar time, then hopefully meet as a board again. If it wasn't a regular scheduled meeting, then we'd have to call a special meeting and continually do it for every one of these libraries. So I just wanted to make sure that we had that background of why we do it this way.
Thank you for specifying that, Andrea. That's a great point. And as Jessica mentioned, we have delegated this authority to set those closure dates for HVAC-related projects since 2022. So this would be our 3rd year in doing it, and it has been a helpful process in the past to reduce the cycle time. Any other questions or comments about this before we take action? Okay. Edward, you lead the roll call.
Carla Gugliolo. Joanne Harris.
Aye.
Josie Martinez.
Aye.
Rhea Sanchez Muniz.
Aye.
Marianne Valdez Hernandez.
Aye.
Amanda Cardenas. Michelle Dalvez Robledo.
Aye.
Marcy Inks.
Aye.
Beth Graham.
Aye.
Judy Cruz.
Aye.
Jaspreet Kaur.
Aye.
Passes.
Okay, thank you. That was our last agenda item. I do have a question for maybe Edward or Kathy. Do you want to use these, or should we just validate for today? Should trustees use these?
Oh,
or-
you can use them.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
So I will entertain a motion for dismissal, for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Marcy. Thank you, Fernanda. All those in favor? Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Fastest meeting we've ever had. I was kind of getting ready to get settled into the night.
Jaspreet.